President Trump went to one of the most pro-Trump places in the country because at the moment he's embattled and, he feels like everybody's coming after him. So he wanted the warm embrace of massive Trump supporters who would never abandon him. He went to the Villages in Florida. It's like this retirement community, gated community. It's all like upper middle class Republicans who end up moving there. Overwhelmingly, it's probably like over 80%. And he gave a speech about healthcare, and he ever so limply attacked Medicare for all. Let's take a look, and then I'll respond.
Almost every major Democrat in Washington has backed a massive government healthcare takeover that would totally obliterate Medicare. These Democrat policy proposals may go by different names. They have all these wonderful names. But they may go by different names, whether it's single payer or the so-called public option, but they're all based on the totally same terrible idea. They want to raid Medicare to fund a thing called socialism. Any socialists in the room? I don't think so. Not too many. Anybody? No. Not too many in the Villages. You're not big on socialism down here, right? These geniuses, these real estate geniuses said, no, we're not too good. Every one of these plans involves rationing care, restricting access, denying coverage, slashing quality, and massively raising taxes. They want to raise your taxes. They also want to have open borders.
I'm genuinely impressed at his ability to fit like 20 falsehoods into a minute-long clip. Because that's what that was. So first and foremost, let's get this out of the way. None of the Democratic candidates are running on open borders. None of them. Not a single one. The furthest any of them go is to say, let's take it from a misdemeanor and make it a civil offense. And the whole reason for that is, it's still illegal, but the whole reason for that is we want to stop the breakup of families at the border, which is something that Donald Trump, even when pushed, goes, you know what, that does go a little too far. And usually what he does is he pivots and he blames Obama for it. Okay, so you agree it's bad. Well, the solution would be taking it from a misdemeanor, making it a civil offense, and then you turn around and strawman that and pretend like that's open borders, something nobody supports. And by the way, the Democrats have repeatedly proposed bills that would increase border funding. Weird way to show they support open borders, isn't it? To increase border funding in proposals to you that you reject because they're not draconian enough. So he's full of it. He's absolutely full of it. And then when he says, well, they want to ration care and raise taxes. You know who rations care? The for-profit health insurance companies. And they ration it in a way worse way than any single-payer system across the world does. That's for sure. You know the way it works in all the single-payer countries, which is every other developed countries. Here's how it works. Here's how they ration care. Are you sick? Do you need help? You're going to get it. So they ration based off of need. Yes, if you have an elective procedure, you might have to wait a little bit for it. You want to know why? Because there's somebody that's got to hop the line because they're having a heart attack and they need help. Like, they ration based on need. It's the most reasonable way to ration. Everybody rations. You have to. You have to ration. So the question is, how are we going to ration? Well, here we do it based on the size of your wallet, not based on need. So somebody could need help more, but they're not well off enough, so they got to wait longer here. We ration care way worse than anybody else. That's why in this country, we have anywhere from 30,000 to 45,000 Americans that die every year because they don't have access to basic health care. So they talk wait lines over there. We have wait lines here, and it's riddled with the bodies of dead folks. 30 to 45,000 every single year. The GOP just rejecting the Medicaid expansion under Obamacare in many of their states, that leads to 17,000 deaths per year. Now they're going to come out here, Trump is going to come out here and argue like, oh, this would be bad if we ration care. It might lead to some negative consequences. Well, what about the 30 to 45,000 people that die every year now? You got nothing to say about them, do you? By the way, under Trump's administration, millions of Americans have lost their health insurance because he's obliterated Obamacare through his executive orders, getting rid of the individual mandate, gutting the promotion of it so people know when it's the enrollment period. So millions of people lost their health insurance. And he's acting like he's some sort of success on this front? Are you kidding me? By any objective measure, he's been way worse when it comes to health care. rationing care. And again, so let's dive into this issue because this is the most misleading one to most people. Oh, they're going to raise taxes. You're paying right now what's called a private tax. Private taxes, premiums, copays, deductibles, everything that you end up paying to a for-profit health insurance company. Now, not only are you paying private taxes to pay for your health care, it is way, way, way more expensive than it would be if we scrapped all the private taxes and raised your public taxes so you get Medicare for all. And oh yeah, by the way, under Medicare for all, everything's covered. Under the private plans, you pay way more and you don't get as much out of it because not everything's covered. The plans exclude stuff. So would you rather pay more and get less covered or pay less and get more covered? I know the answer to that because I don't have a cinder block where my head is supposed to be. Do you know the answer to that? And then, of course, the best part is, and it shows how uneducated he is on this topic, or he knows and he's just a massive propagandist. Could be either one. He argues that, they call it like there's single payer, there's public option, but it's all the same terrible idea. Go talk to somebody who's actually educated about this stuff on the left and see if all that stuff is the same. No, there's giant differences between all the plans proposed by all the Democrats. Whether it's the public option, Medicare for all, extra, Medicare for America. Those are all, unless you are getting rid of private insurance companies as the main source of insurance, health insurance, then your plan, to one extent or another, is protecting the profits of the health insurance companies and not changing the status quo enough. Okay, the only kind of private insurance that is really okay would be supplemental. So no duplicative insurance. So a private insurance company can't rip you off when Medicare for all is offering insurance on that in the first place. Okay, no duplicative insurance. That's a very important provision. The only kind of private insurance that would really be okay is supplemental insurance. But so many of the plans keep the for-profit health insurance companies in control of large swaths of the marketplace, and that's not okay. And he, of course, calls it a government takeover of healthcare, and the irony of it all, he says they want to raid Medicare to fund socialism. And he asked them, oh, you guys don't like socialism too much here in the villages now, do you? And they're all cheering like, yeah, we hate socialism. Virtually everybody in that audience is on Medicare. I mean, you got to hand it to the propagandists, man. They've done a great job of drilling these falsehoods into the heads of our elderly folks in this country. When you're all sitting there, you're all on Medicare, you're all on Social Security, and you're like, yeah, we hate socialism. The point of the event that they're going to is he's pretending like, I support Medicare. That's what I do. So in an event where you're talking about how much you support Medicare, you're talking about socialism is bad. What do you think that is? What do you think it is? And they're so ridiculous, they've gotten to the point where the only counterargument they try to make is the most absurd argument anybody could come up with. The argument of they're raiding Medicare to pay for socialism. So somehow being in favor of Medicare for all is an anti-Medicare position. No, I would argue you have the anti-Medicare position because you don't want to expand it. I mean, if you think this program is so wonderful as you're pretending to, Medicare is great, we love Medicare. If you're pretending it's so wonderful, okay, then what's the next step? What should be done? Well, if something's great, shouldn't you expand it? That's what Medicare for All is. An expansion of the wonderful program that is Medicare, so it applies to everybody in the country. But this is the only out they have, guys, is this terrible mental gymnastics jujitsu nonsense. This idea of they want to raid Medicare to pay for socialism. These guys are anti-Medicare, and that's why they want, like, Medicare for everybody in the country. It's almost too stupid to merit a response. Almost. Except, here's the deal, and this is what's so frustrating. No, but I didn't see anybody even really cover this speech seriously. CNN, MSNBC, the rest of them, they're all out to lunch. They're all up their own rear ends talking about, the Ukraine thing and Joe Biden, and they're acting like Biden did nothing wrong, and, Donald Trump fishing for Dar and his political opponents is the only story in the country right now. All this other stuff doesn't matter. Well, let me explain something to you. If you want to hammer him home. If you want to hammer him and get to the point where we can easily win the next election, this is what you focus on. Because the number one issue that Americans regularly report to pollsters, the number one, healthcare. So if that's the number one issue, and we have the popular position, we meaning the left, 70% of Americans support Medicare for all. Even when you try to word it in a weaselly way to put a negative connotation on it, it's still over 50% of Americans supporting Medicare for all. When you word it fairly, it's 70%. So we have the most popular solution on the issue that Americans care the most about, literally, and the argument from the right is a disgusting, over-the-top, incoherent mess. And instead of focusing on that, you guys want to run around in circles talking about Ukraine until the cows come home. As if working people in this country are like, I wonder what's happening in Kyiv. No, they want to know how you're going to help them. How you're going to fix their lives. 500,000 bankruptcies for medical bills. People getting rejected for silly reasons so the companies can make more profits. He's so ripe for attack here, and it's nowhere to be seen. Only like Bernie on the campaign trail is doing it. Other than that, you got to come here to get real substantive discussion about how this makes no sense. Here's where you attack him. You would think there'd be 1,000 articles in mainstream media. Donald Trump with, incoherent argument on healthcare. Because it is that. It is that. Somehow, the left is anti-Medicare by being for Medicare for all? That makes less than no sense. But no, they don't do it. They don't do it. And that's why there's still a question as to what's going to happen in this presidential race, even though Donald Trump is historically a pretty unpopular president. Because the resistance is so toothless that it's still up in the air as to whether or not we can defeat him. If you do the right strategy, it's not up in the air.